Sorte apur bategaz Frantzira alduko sarie.
Frantziara? Gaizki dare gauza gala.
Hemen gelditzuko naiz.
We're going to start. Karmele, we have to present the film from left to right. Kirmen Uribe, the author, Nagore Aranburu, actor, Eneko Sagardoy, actor, Asier Altuna, director and screenplayer, Jone, Laspiur, actor, Javier Barandiaran, actor, and Marian Fernández, the producer. So please raise your hands so that we can give you the floor. And to break the ice, I'm going to ask a first question. I would like to ask Asier and also Kirmen. As you know, the film Karmele is based upon Kirmen's novel Elkarrekin Neznake Koldua, and I'd like to know when you decide to adapt, or at what time do you think that this book could become a film, and how did you collaborate, or which way how have you collaborated? Well, when I started to visualize a film with the film of the Oresta Letamendi family is when I read the book. I read the book and all of a sudden the story was very close to me, because we've always heard stories about the war at home and things that are quite common for many. But Karmele's story was quite particular. Karmele and Chomen's story was quite particular. There's quite a lot of journey. There's a lot of music, and there are characters very, very committed of trying to recover that freedom that was taken away with the coup d'etat. And I saw that there was perhaps too many adventures and vicissitudes, but there were there was quite a lot of subject matter. And that's where I started to visualize the film. And then it was quite difficult to make the film that we present today, because above all, the work was more of taking things away and to tell the story through the characters. And the truth is, I'm very, very happy to be here. It's very beautiful. It's like these stories that were told in the past. The stories were told from one generation to another. And this story comes from the Oresta Letamendi family, that I've known them since I was a child. And I've always wanted to tell this story. And so therefore, I had to wait until the third novel to dare to tell the story of Karmele Oresti, an incredible story, a story that may be of the past, but it's a present story, because it talks about the story of displacement, of a broken family. It's a story about exile, and now this is happening in the world at present. And it's also a story about hope, and it's a story about dignity. So therefore, a relationship with Asier has always been one as professional, but also a friendship above all. We're friends. That's what joins us and unites us, and it helps us to connect between each other. I think that it's very beautiful what he's done. The novel invites you to, but the novel is an essay. It's a mixture between an essay and fiction. And what he's done, he's drawn down to the characters, the people in the book. He's focused more on Karmele and Chomen, in the people themselves, in their fears, and their little joys that they have. And I think he's made a marvelous film. Hi. First of all, congratulations for the film. It's incredible. We had a lot of expectation to see how it came out. And Karmele, we thought it was a character, more than a character, a symbol, and the roar of women who denied and would stop wanting to disappear. Eneko has transcended with the film, with the impact it has. And Asier, with his heart and with his soul, has told us a marvelous story. I would like to ask you a question, but I've only got one question. I want to be more specific. Okay, Jone, as regards to Nagore, I also liked your portrayal of your character. First of all, it's reminded me of the kindness of women, nobility and loyalty and resilience and strength of women in the Basque country, of mothers and so on. I'm proud to see that the Basque women are so powerful. They think of unity, not individually, but they're also reivindicating their work and their independence and their work, which is something which is absolutely fascinating, which freaks me out about us Basque women. And my question would be for Jone, what has changed in you after portraying Karmele? And whether you feel that this experience has transformed your perspective of our history and who we are today. Undoubtedly, it's left something, this character has left something. First of all, it's the biggest challenge of my career so far, which is brief, but it's been a character which is very powerful. I've confronted a character like this because it takes place over 10 years, so I've lived through different stages of who this woman was that are close to me because I'm about to turn 30 very soon. We start with Karmele, who's about 20 years old, and we see how she evolves from a young person, and she has to take very powerful decisions that will completely change the path of her life. And then she becomes a mother, and she's a pillar of the family structure, and she changes her responsibilities and the way she sees politics and the world. This is something that is very close to me because I'm in a period now when that around me I'm seeing that a lot of friends are deciding to have a family, to change their lives completely. And to be able to live that and take it to the complex historical context that she was in. I'm not sure it's an issue that women, Basque women, are strong or not. I think prior generations in general were much stronger. They had to live through very difficult contexts and moments, so they had to make very strong decisions since they were young. When Karmele says, no, I'm going to stay here to take care of sick people, I'm going to separate my family, when she's just barely 20 years old. This has drawn me to think about these characters and in our ancestors and my grandmothers and great-grandmothers. I thought a lot about my grandparents. Grandmothers, for example, they were very present. My Amaya, my grandmother, she was a widow with 7 children taking care of her parents. My other grandmother had to leave her studies and everything, practically being an adolescent, to take on a small family company because her father passed away and her mother couldn't, and she controlled the family. She had to leave everything, her dreams and everything. So I've had them quite present, and undoubtedly this role has made me reconnect a lot with my grandmothers on both sides, and also my great-grandmothers. I've also thought about them. So therefore for me it's an exercise which is very important, because quite often we leave our grandparents who have left us because we met them after a certain age. But there were other people and they had dreams and they were very young and they were teenagers and they loved and they fell in love and they struggled and they had desires and ideals. And for me it's very important to remember this, to remember that part of our family members who are left in the past. Any other questions? Yes? Hi, a question for Asier. It's a film which is quite complex. To try to construct it, it's expensive, with a lot of leaps and changes in time, a period piece with a lot of locations. Something that's not very usual in Basque cinema. How was it to carry out this super production, shall we say? Well, it was complicated, and a challenge, because I've never had to confront a film of this dimension. The first thing that I've got to talk about is I'm very good friends who are in the very good professionals in the crew and cast, and it's been a film that we've taken very good care of. The pre-production, I would like to do it this way as well. What the film asked for, really, we had to record all the music beforehand, so therefore this led us to prepare months before everything months before. So therefore, apart from this, you know that locations and a period piece is very complicated. All of this, we had to do things way beforehand. What happened in the end was all the work was well done when we started to shoot the film, and this helps quite a lot when you enjoy enjoying the shooting of the film. But the work was a teamwork, costume, DOP, and art to tell that journey between different countries, that journey that is accompanied by the music, with the different music that you can hear in the film, and different spaces, and accompanying the characters always, accompanying their emotions through colors, the music, and above all, we could say it's a very interesting cinematographic context, changing countries and spaces and situations that are so complex, but in turn focusing on the characters at all times. And this is the journey that we've taken. And above all, the part that I like the most, always, and I've told my colleagues, is like coming back home, that is to say, when through the characters you're telling about those fears and those complex situations that take places and those decisions that they have to make, which are so powerful. And I thought it was a complicated journey, but in turn very elegant, and we've had time to a long time for post-production. We've taken a lot of care of sound and post-production, and it's a film that has been done slowly, and it's a privilege and it's a luxury at the same time. Let me take advantage to ask Marian whether that, from the production standpoint, you wanted to add anything, because it's a very ambitious production design, and since 2019, which was in San Sebastian in the pre-production, you would like to add something vis-a-vis production? Yes. I was thinking through Oscar's question about this issue. I would say that it's a mature film in many senses of the word. That is to say, it's a film of the maturity of the director, who we have followed Asier's career, and I've worked with him in my case in the last few years with him, and we can see that, and we can be recognized tomorrow with the award that he and Telmo is going to receive after 20 years since his first film 20 years ago. But it's a film that has slowly matured, as Mayalen said, since we were 7 years ago. We were pitching it in Cannes, in a forum from the books to Blockbusters, I think it was called. We went there with Kirmen's book under our arms to pitch it, and then we were here in the co-production forum. It matured slowly to what it is, and it needed all of that maturation process, because it was a very complex film at many different levels, not only at a production level, but it's also a film of the maturity of our own Basque audiovisual ecosystem. For many years, there are many technicians and artists who have worked in order to be able to confront a project like Karmele and make it and do it in a very natural way. For it to be a challenge at many different levels, technically and artistic, but that were resolved in a very natural way because we were very prepared to do so. Hi, Asier. Asier, first of all, congratulations for the film. I'd like to ask you about the end of the film. You've talked about decisions, the courageous decision that she makes because she's the head of the family. We've got the children with the grandparents, but how did you give form to the end? Well, that ending, it was quite clear from the outset. The first piece of news of the film was the fact that took place in Fuenterrabía, where how a fisherman put fire to his ship because it was confiscated. It was seized. He couldn't go out and fish in the sea with his boat. So therefore that image I thought was quite powerful, that the burning of the little boat. But a lot of elements attracted me of the character of the fisherman, that decision in favor of the dignity of the fisherman. When the ending of the film is quite clear, well, it works quite well because you have a target in mind, or a goal in mind, and that's what guided me, and it guided the script throughout the film, and that's how the ending ends up being as it is. Take advantage of this occasion to ask Jone and Eneko and Nagore and Javier, how have you worked on your characters from Kirmen's text and the script, and whether you've had any approach to the descendants, the real characters, whether you've researched this? There are different layers when approaching the characters. Could you talk about the work that you've done there? Hi, good morning. Yes, the work where it mixed a lot of things because they were extraordinary beings, Jone as well as Karmele. In my case, confront the technical work of trying to play the trumpet that I never thought that would happen to me, to learn digitization, the breathing, the gestures of your face, and also the responsibility of portraying real characters, and the responsibility and the emotion also of the dignity Kirmen was talking about, but also a feeling and a very deep mission of repair and recognition towards people like Jone and Karmele. Here we've got two of the children, Jone and Pachi, the sons, and the challenge is, how can you give room to that, portraying these powerful characters, and to not be overwhelmed by the emotion that 75 years ago Karmele Metamendi was murdered by police torture, and nowadays it is one of the many people that have not been recognized as such. I'm not too sure whether cinema changes society, I don't dare to say so, but undoubtedly it generates conversation. I hope it generates a bit of peace and a bit of repair. And it's been an honor to portray this role, yes. It wasn't too complicated what I had to do. Yes, of course I read Kirmen's book. There wasn't too many information upon Francisco, who was Karmele's father. So therefore what I did was to insert myself into the family with Nagore and try to form part of this group which Karmele defines, Karmele and all of its components, to hold up and bear the violence. The only thing is to continue to exist whichever way you can. And to achieve it, we had to be together as much as we could, and that was our work. Yes, I think what we had to do was the other character was the family. And that's why I said when we were rehearsing, I said, we've got to give it, this has to be true, feel true. We have to accompany these two characters, this heroine and this hero in life. And our work was to go behind them and to back them as much and to accompany them in that extraordinary work that they've done. That's Javier and I, that's what we did, back them as much as we could and support them. It was curious because from the outset, the atmosphere was quite family-like. From Chinchua, for example, it was very family, so there was a climate of full confidence and calm, And we worked with a feeling of family, and when we actors entered to build up, to construct the family, it's quite curious. Sometimes the roles, we take them to real life, and all of a sudden you have roles almost caretakers, beautiful things that emerge in real life. And we had the enormous privilege that the family members could come along to the shoot occasionally. We met them, and we were able to present and ask them our questions, to have remarks and anecdotes, small issues like a little while ago we were talking about that your mother, she was very powerful, and issues that she had with Basque, they were able to convey that vision. It's a luxury that very few times occurs when you act. A lot of thanks, enormous thanks. We've been able to portray the characters with all the respect and dignity that we could. We always say this, we're not going to be them. We can get us minimally come close to those characters, but we never can be them. And we weren't interested in that either. We knew we were going to build our own characters. Asier made us quite clear from the outset. Asier had done an enormous research work, and he'd given us a lot of information. And the work was quite comprehensive, quite complete at many different levels and degrees. And I'm very happy with what we've achieved with this family. And a lot of extra school, trumpet, dancing, Basque dancers, singing. Gosh, apart from all of the political militants and all of the value of the struggle, they did all of this on top of it. I said, well, holy hell. Talk about multidisciplinary. Well, I thought it was incredible. So thank you very much, Asier, for all of these subjects that we had to try to pass. Okay? Hi. I would like to ask you, being in an international film festival, how you think it's going to be seen from the international world or standpoint, this local story, because of the point of view of critics and spectators. What do you think its trajectory is going to have outside the Basque Country? Well, I think it's a universal story at the end of the day. It's quite specific what we're telling it. We're telling it from the local vision. It's something very ours. It has our folklore, and it can also be attractive. Why not? They say we've taken care of all the details. This film is full of little details, and this means it can be seen anywhere. So, from that point of view, festivals are starting. It's being well accepted. It was seen in a film festival in Algeria, in Argentina. We've received an invitation. So therefore, I think it will be seen outside the Basque Country. Congratulations for the film. I'm going to ask in Spanish. I was stuck to my chair, my seat when I watched the film. It's filled a gap or something that I lack. There's no doubt it will be understood outside of the Basque Country. Kirmen, I haven't read the book, but the film I thought was incredible. Asier, congratulations, and the entire cast, because you've Basque cinemas you've put it up at a different level, and two challenges that I'm going to address. I think that our history, you've addressed it from a humanistic standpoint. I think that approach is correct, and it's been an impressive step that you've taken. But of course, two questions. The first, would you dare, the past has been well explained, would you dare make a film of the present? This family vision is quite good, but would you bring it to the present, Asier? That is to say, you're interested in returning home. I think it's very interesting coming back home, the returning home. And second important question is the issue of matriarchs. Our culture is based on matriarchs. So all of those secondary characters are very important. Jone, because he gave his life at a given moment, he's a hero. They've been heroes in Basque society, all of these people. And we vindicate the figure of women, but there's also a lack in the role that men play. So therefore the second question is to address it from the point of view of men, that humanistic vision, I think that's lacking. These are two questions, the present and that of the vision of men. I'm not too sure whether... yes, Asier, well, as you said, Jone, I'll answer. Yes, I do believe that this film, a few years back, but not many years ago, would have been a film of a man, a trumpet player and a spy a few years back. But in that sense, over the last few years, and obviously from the point of view of Asier and the point of view of the genre and Kirmen, we've tried to focus upon Karmele, her character, because she did something that was unexpected. In stories about men, I don't think that we have to underline them. And I like that approach, that we understand it and we see it from her point of view, of the journey that she takes, and to tell her story. And the rest of us have acted as witnesses of everything. A few years back, we wouldn't even have imagined that we'd have told a story from the point of view of Jone. What do you think? Well, I completely agree. This is something which is very interesting, because at the end of the day, and I said beforehand, we thought about the women in my family, and I'm very aware of the fact that what I am today, there have been women that have come before me, and that men in my family have the decisions that they adopted, those political decisions that they made at the end of the day were thanks to the support of women. So it's important to see what that is in Karmele. Chomin, albeit he does everything he does, the person that makes it possible is Karmele. And on the other hand, the place that we women have had in history, the vision is different, in my opinion. It's very interesting what Karmele says from the educational standpoint to make that change. And Karmele addresses something which is quite innovative at that time. That's something that men didn't see. There were a lot of women, my grandmother, Arrate, as well. Yes, your mother was... My grandmother was also called Grandmother Arrate, that was her name. This was one of the creators of the Eibar Basque school. And there were other women who created songs and teaching material. So therefore, they created culture as well. So therefore, this is important to start to think about these women, because they don't appear anywhere. And I would like to say something else, but I forget because I got very moved in what I was saying. That's what I wanted to say. That point of view of women, we don't know them, and we're starting to talk about this issue. So therefore, welcome to everything that comes along from that perspective. If you have no further questions, I would like to ask one final one, a twofold question, which has to do with the staging of the film and how you... It's twofold because I want to ask you about the music. Because apart from the character plays the trumpet, and Karmele sings in a choir, music plays an important role in this film, and also the scenes with the choir. And also I'd like to ask you about the style, which has also been asked about, classic spy film. What are the visual references that you've wanted to think? Well, the music has been a challenge. First of all, to choose all of the parts that are going to be in the film, to work with Aitor Echeverria, the director of the soundtrack, has been to take all of that music that has been shot to the shooting of the film, recorded to the shooting of the film, and the music has a component which is very emotional. All of a sudden, I think that a war scene with bombs and shooting, to see a real choir with a character like Karmele singing, these are things from the script I thought had to be very powerful. And also, I think that the music accompanies the emotions and what they're living through. To arrive in Caracas when they've gone through many vicissitudes and very complicated situations, and to achieve that very pleasant area, bringing up their children full of color. They needed, in a more classical way, making it beautiful and how well they are, so that you can, when you're at home or in a situation which is very complicated, Truman is arrested, you remember what happened there. So therefore, leaving to one side the diegetic music, shall we say, Aitor and I, we decided that we didn't want to place music to accompany feelings or emotions at all. We didn't want to be on top, like to back that up. So therefore, it was a style decision that was made that has to do with, from the photography and the staging of it, say, how are we going to tell this part of the story? So therefore we decided to do it, to not show so much music and do it through the characters themselves. We want the context that accompanies them, but not to go to tell you everything, even with the ellipsis sort of editing work. And that we wanted to be very little dialogue and to tell stories through the looks and their glances and the references. Well, I remember when I started to work on the script, I thought those first sequences, which they smell like Polish. What's all this all about, for example? What we were talking about, how it will be seen. Cold World, for example, is a great film. But what a pleasure to see that group of young people who are there participating. That was one of the references, because the period coincided, the endings are very different. Zonka he drew the attention of democracies vis-a-vis fascism, and it denunciates the coup d'etat and the war, and it ends up being promoting communism, but how this was portrayed. And I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot. Okay. Thank you very much to the film Karmele and Asier, and for the award he will receive tomorrow. A round of applause, please. Thank you.